You've seen him spin the wheel for over 4 decades. But how well do you know Pat Sajak? The charming host of Wheel of Fortune may seem like a friendly and professional guy, but he's hiding a dark secret that'll shock you. Pat has a long history of being rude, mocking, and belittling to contestants on his popular game show. In this video, we'll reveal some of the most outrageous examples of Pat Sajak's mean streak, and how he's gotten away with it for so long. Facts First presents Pat Sajak finally confirmed what we've all been thinking. Mood killer. One of the most cringeworthy moments of Pat Sajak's rudeness happened on Wednesday, February 15th, 2023, on an episode of Wheel of Fortune during the Sweethearts Special Week. Mark and Debbie, a married couple of 42 years, had just won the game and were about to spin the bonus round wheel when they decided to celebrate their victory with a quick kiss on the lips. The audience seemed to be enthralled by the touching moment, but Pat was clearly not amused. He interrupted their romantic moment with a snarky remark that made everyone uncomfortable. "I have a personal question to ask you," he began, then noticed their smooch. "As soon as you're through," he added awkwardly. He then proceeded to ask them about Debbie's mom, Dorothy, as if nothing had happened. The couple tried to laugh it off, but it was clear Pat had killed the vibe.
This video is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan. Did you know that hiring a lawyer for a car accident or an injury is actually really easy? With Morgan & Morgan, you can do it all from your phone in just 8 clicks or less. As a true 21st century law firm, they've modernized the injury law process so you can submit your case details, sign contracts, and even text your attorney and legal team throughout the duration of your case. They can be your first recourse in the case of a car accident, and you don't pay any fees unless they win. So if you're ever injured in a car accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without having to leave your couch. For more information, you can go to forthepeople.com or dial #LAW. That's #529 right from your cell phone.
Impatient Pat. Another time Pat showed his rudeness was Monday, February 20th, 2023, when he may have pressured one contestant into rushing a critical decision, costing her the game. The contestant, named Kelly, had just solved a puzzle and was about to choose a prize from the Express Wedge. This wedge allows contestants to keep calling letters and adding money to their total until they either solve the puzzle or hit a bankrupt. Pat explained the rules to Kelly and asked her if she wanted to hop on board the Express. Kelly hesitated for a moment, then said yes. Pat then asked her to pick a letter. Kelly said N, but there was no N in the puzzle. Pat immediately declared her bankrupt and took away all of her money. Kelly looked stunned and disappointed by her loss. She had over $10,000 in cash and prizes before she chose the Express Wedge. Some fans wondered if Pat had influenced her decision by asking her quickly and not giving her enough time to think. One fan tweeted, "Pat Sajak is so rude. He pressured that poor girl into taking the Express Wedge and then she lost everything." Another fan wrote, "Kelly should have said no to the Express Wedge. Pat Sajak was too pushy with her." A third fan commented, "I feel bad for Kelly. She was doing so well until Pat rushed her into a bad choice." Pat may not have intended to pressure Kelly, but he certainly did not show any sympathy or compassion after she lost. He didn't apologize or console her, but simply moved on to the next contestant. Lack of empathy. If you thought that was bad, wait until you hear this. Pat Sajak was rude to Upland, California improv teacher Scott Ingerson on the March 9th, 2022 taping of Wheel when he dismissed the contestant's heartfelt personal story as pointless. Scott had an interesting anecdote about losing part of his toe in a bike accident when he was 12. Seeing his appearance on the program as an opportunity to express gratitude, he wanted to take a moment to personally thank the paramedics who helped him and reattached his toe. Pat seemed uninterested in Scott's story from the start. He asked him why he was telling it and interrupted him several times. When Scott finished his story, Pat said, "That may have been the most pointless story ever told. And you told it, Scott. Congratulations to you." He then moved on to the next contestant without any sympathy or appreciation. Fans were outraged by Pat's rudeness and called him out on social media. They said he was cold-blooded, awkward, and uncomfortable, and insensitive. They also defended Scott and praised his story as interesting and meaningful. Fans additionally insisted Pat should apologize and learn to be more respectful to contestants. Making up rules. Pat Sajak accused a contestant of making up her own rules on January 17th, 2023, when he scolded her in a wildly unprofessional manner. The contestant, named Carmen, rang in and solved the puzzle for the category Fun and Games with the answer Soccer Tournament before Pat had the chance to call on her. Pat looked annoyed and said, "I think it's nice when contestants make up their own rules." He then waved his hand dismissively while looking like he was totally over it. The longtime game show host then raised his eyebrows for a prolonged dramatic pause with the crowd in utter silence. He asked for the show's announcer to take it away, thus invalidating her win. Host Jim Thornton ended up siding with Pat by saying, "Just rolling with it too, Pat," via voiceover. Carmen ended up failing to make the bonus round later in the episode, but she did seem to be genuinely shocked and ever so pleased with herself when her score was displayed on screen. At that point, Pat slipped in one more rude jab by saying, "You're very dramatic, Carmen." A simple "hold your horses" and "congratulations" would have sufficed, Pat. Rubbing it in. It seems at this point, Pat can get away with saying just about anything, regardless of how belittling, condescending, and cruel he might sound. In yet another brazen display of callous disrespect, Pat was rude to a contestant named Octavia Martin on Friday, February 9th, 2023. Octavia had won over $20,000 in regular gameplay and had a chance to solve the final puzzle, which was autographed copy. However, she failed to guess the correct answer in time. To add insult to injury, Pat reacted to her misfortune by telling her, "I thought you might be able to come up with autograph. Wasn't going to happen, was it?" If that wasn't insulting enough, he then proceeded to rub salt in her wounds by revealing she could have won a coveted $40,000 cash prize. Mean-spirited. Wheel of Fortune is supposed to be a fun and friendly game, but more often than he ever should, Pat can be a little too sarcastic and snarky. That's what happened on February 22nd, 2021, when Sajak made fun of a contestant's speech impediment during the player introductions. The contestant, Chris Brimble, had a lisp and spoke with difficulty. He told Sajak he was a tech salesman who helped older adults with technology. Sajak seemed to appreciate his job, but then I mocked him for saying "I thee" instead of "I see." The joke was not well received by many viewers, who took to Twitter to express their anger and disappointment at Sajak's insensitive remark. Some called him rude, cold-blooded, and mean-spirited. Others demanded an apology. Some even compared him unfavorably to the late Alex Trebek, who was known for his kindness and respect towards contestants. Sajak did not address the controversy or apologize. Fortunately, the contestant he mocked seemed to take the distressing situation in stride. Brimble did not seem to be bothered by Sajak's mockery and continued to play the game with a smile. He ended up winning $12,250 in prize money, but missed out on the bonus puzzle and a chance to win $40,000 more. Ungrateful. Pat Sajak accused a contestant of being ungrateful on Wednesday, November 25th, 2020. The contestant, Darren McBain, had solved a puzzle with things that begin with the word kitchen. He correctly guessed cabinet, towels, oven, sink. However, he questioned one of the answers by saying kitchen oven and wondering who calls it that. Sajak did not appreciate his remark and said, "Don't, you won. Don't argue, Darren. You got the puzzle. Ungrateful players, I've had it." He then jokingly added, "I finally snapped," and laughed it off. Many fans were somewhat amused by Sajak's outburst and praised him for his humor. On the other hand, some agreed with McBain that kitchen oven was a weird phrase. Sajak later apologized to McBain for his teasing and said he was kidding. McBain went on to win $15,350 in prize money, but lost in the bonus round. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think of Pat Sajak? Let us know in the comments section below.